Despite decades of progress toward gender equality, women around the world continue to face significant pay disparities compared to their male counterparts. In Iceland, often celebrated as the most gender-equal society, women still earn just 90 cents for every dollar men make, according to the World Economic Forum's 2023 Global Gender Gap Report, WEF, 2023. The gap widens dramatically in other developed nations. South Korea's gender pay gap stands at a staggering 35%, meaning women earn only 65 cents per male dollar, OECD, 2023, while in the United States, women working full-time earn 82 cents for every dollar earned by men, a figure that has barely budged in 20 years, U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, 2024. These sobering statistics only tell part of the story. A growing body of research reveals that even when controlling for occupation, education, and experience, an unexplained pay gap of 5 to 8% persists across most industries. Strong evidence of systemic discrimination. Blau and Kahn, 2017, Journal of Economic Literature. The motherhood penalty exacerbates these disparities, with women's earnings dropping 4% per child while men's wages actually increased by 6% after becoming fathers. Budig et al. 2021, American Sociological Review. Occupational segregation remains entrenched, with women comprising over 75% of healthcare and social assistance workers but less than 30% of STEM professionals, U.S. Census Bureau, 2023. Perhaps most alarmingly, at the current rate of progress, the World Economic Forum estimates it will take 132 years to close the global gender pay gap, WEF, 2023. However, proven solutions exist. Iceland's mandatory equal pay certification reduced their gap from 16% to 4% in just 5 years, WEF, 2023, while California's pay transparency law, SB 1162, has already narrowed wage disparities by 7% since its 2022 implementation, California Labor Commissioner, 2024. Corporate initiatives like Salesforce's $3 million salary adjustment demonstrate that when companies audit and correct pay inequities, meaningful change is possible. Salesforce Equality Report, 2022. The path forward requires policy reform, corporate accountability, and cultural shifts, including normalizing paternity leave, as Sweden's use it or lose it policy demonstrates, having reduced their pay gap by 30% since implementation, OECD, 2023. While the challenges are significant, the solutions are within reach, if society commits to implementing evidence-based strategies with the urgency this injustice demands. The parenthood pay gap, empirical evidence of systemic disparities and their lasting consequences. A comprehensive analysis of 2.3 million tax records by Pew Research Center 2023 reveals a stark divergence in how parenthood impacts earnings by gender. Mothers suffer a 4% wage reduction per child, while fathers enjoy a 6% wage increase, a phenomenon economists term the motherhood penalty and fatherhood bonus. This disparity persists even after controlling for education, occupation, experience, and hours worked, indicating deep-seated systemic biases in how employers value parental status by gender. The penalty is exacerbated in states without paid family leave policies, e.g. Florida and Texas, where the motherhood wage gap grows 2.5 times wider than in states with robust leave programs like California. Pew Research Center, 2023, National Partnership for Women and Families, 2024. The economic consequences are staggering. A National Women's Law Center, NWLC, 2024 study calculates that the lifetime earnings loss for college-educated mothers totals $1 million due to intersecting racial and gender biases. Economic Policy Institute, 2023. These disparities are not inevitable. States with pay transparency laws, Colorado, have reduced gender wage gaps by 7% in 2 years, California Labor Commissioner, 2024, and companies like Salesforce have eliminated $3 million in parent-related pay gaps through regular audits, Salesforce Equality Report, 2023. The data makes clear that closing this gap requires paid leave policies, anti-bias enforcement, and cultural shifts to ensure parenthood no longer dictates earning potential. The leadership gap, how gender bias undermines corporate performance and economic growth. Despite overwhelming evidence that gender diversity enhances corporate success, systemic barriers continue to slow progress at the highest levels of business. Research from Catalyst, 2024 projects that Fortune 500 boards won't achieve gender parity until 2075 at the current glacial pace of change, a timeline that reflects persistent institutional resistance to diversifying leadership. This stagnation persists even as McKinsey & Company's landmark Diversity Wins study, 2023, analyzing 1,000 major corporations across 15 countries, demonstrates that companies with gender-diverse executive teams are 25% more likely to achieve above-average profitability than their less diverse peers. The performance advantage is even more pronounced at the CEO level. Firms with female CEOs generate 20% higher stock price growth compared to industry averages, according to a S&P Global Market Intelligence analysis, 2023, of 6,000 companies over a decade. The disconnect between evidence and reality stems from deep-rooted gender biases in leadership evaluation. A rigorous MIT Sloan School of Management study, 2022, examined 4,000 leadership proposals presented to corporate boards and found that identical business plans were 35% less likely to be approved when presented by women compared to men, clear evidence of what researchers term provenance bias. This discrimination manifests throughout the corporate pipeline. Harvard Business Review's analysis, 2023, of promotion patterns in Fortune 500 companies revealed that women must demonstrate 30% more competence than male colleagues to be considered for the same senior roles, a phenomenon documented across industries from technology to finance. The economic costs of this exclusion are staggering. Morgan Stanley Capital International (MSCI), 2023, estimates that gender inequality in leadership costs the global economy $12 trillion in lost productivity annually, equivalent to the entire GDP of Japan, Germany, and the UK combined. In the technology sector alone, a 2023 Stanford University study calculated that startups with gender-balanced leadership teams generate 63% higher valuations at IPO compared to male-dominated counterparts. Neuroscience research from Columbia Business School, 2023, helps explain these outcomes. fMRI scans reveal that both male and female executives unconsciously associate leadership qualities like vision and strategic thinking with male voices and faces, a bias that develops as early as elementary school, according to longitudinal studies by the American Psychological Association, 2024. Proven policy solutions for pay equity, lessons from Iceland and California. Iceland's groundbreaking 2018 equal pay standard has emerged as the world's most effective policy intervention for closing gender wage gaps, demonstrating how aggressive regulatory measures can drive systemic change. Implemented through the Icelandic Act on Equal Status and Equal Rights of Women and Men, this legislation requires all companies with 25-plus employees to undergo rigorous third-party certification every 3 years to prove they compensate men and women equally for work of equal value, with non-compliant firms facing daily fines up to $500 per day. Icelandic Ministry of Welfare, 2023 Annual Report. The results have been transformative. Government data shows Iceland reduced its gender pay gap from 16% in 2017 to just 4% by 2023. Statistics Iceland, 2024, achieving the lowest gap among OECD nations. A University of Reykjavik study, 2023 analyzing 1,200 certified companies found the policy was particularly effective in male-dominated sectors like finance and engineering, where gaps narrowed by 18 to 22 percentage points through mandatory salary adjustments. Crucially, the standard uses job evaluation points systems that objectively assess skill, effort, responsibility, and working conditions, eliminating subjective bias in pay decisions. World Economic Forum Case Study, 2023. California's SB 1162 Pay Transparency Law, enacted in 2022, provides another evidence-based model for accelerating pay equity through market mechanisms. The legislation, the strongest in the U.S., requires all employers with 15-plus workers to disclose salary ranges in job postings and provide pay scales to current employees upon request, with penalties up to $10,000 per violation. California Civil Code 432.3. Early results from the California Labor Commissioner's 2024 report show the law has already reduced the state's gender pay gap by 7% in its first 2 years, with the most significant improvements in tech, 9% reduction, and healthcare, 8% reduction. LinkedIn's 2024 workforce report analyzed 4.5 million job postings and found California employers increased salary offers for female-dominated roles by 12% on average post-implementation, compared to just 4% in non-transparency states. Crucially, the law has created a virtuous cycle. Berkeley's Labor Center, 2024, found that 68% of California women now use disclosed salary ranges in negotiations, and employers have proactively corrected 10,000 per violation. California Civil Code 432.3. Early results from the California Labor Commissioner's 2024 report show the law has already reduced the state gender pay gap by $71.2 billion in pay disparities to avoid reputational risk. The Salesforce Pay Equity Model, how it works and why it matters. Let me walk you through Salesforce's groundbreaking approach to closing pay gaps, a model that's been adopted by over 200 companies worldwide. It all starts with data. First, Salesforce conducted a company-wide pay audit, using advanced statistical analysis to compare salaries across roles, experience levels, and demographics. The findings were revealing. 6% of employees, primarily women and minorities in technical and leadership positions, were being paid less than their peers for similar work. So, Salesforce took action. They invested $3 million upfront to adjust salaries, ensuring equal pay for equal work. But here's the key, they didn't stop there. They built a system of biannual pay audits, creating an ongoing cycle. 1. Analyze compensation data across the entire workforce. 2. Identify any unexplained disparities. 3. Adjust salaries to close those gaps immediately. 4. Monitor results and repeat every 6 months. By 2023, this process had eliminated pay disparities, reducing unexplained wage gaps to less than 1%. To help other companies replicate this success, Salesforce developed the Equity Method, a tech-powered platform that automates pay equity. Here's how it works. AI detection scans payroll data to flag disparities, even hidden ones, like Black women engineers earning $17,000 less than peers. Simulation tools lets companies test how raises or promotions will impact pay equity before making decisions. Compliance safeguards keeps companies ahead of global pay transparency laws, from California to the EU. Independent research shows companies using this model fix pay gaps 2.3 times faster than industry peers. Reduce turnover among underpaid groups by 18%. See a 24% boost in productivity from employees who feel fairly compensated. This isn't just about fairness, it's smart business. McKinsey found firms using this approach get 28% higher ROI on compensation spending. And with pay transparency laws spreading globally, proactive equity isn't optional, it's essential. Salesforce's model proves pay equity isn't a one-time fix, but a continuous process. By combining data transparency, regular audits, and AI-powered tools, any company can turn wage fairness into a competitive advantage. Empowering action against pay inequality, tools for systemic change. The fight for pay equity requires both systemic policy reforms and individual empowerment, two approaches exemplified by paygap.org and salary.com's value calculator. Paygap.org, a legislative advocacy platform developed in partnership with the National Women's Law Center, provides citizens with direct access to contact their representatives about pending pay equity bills, including the Paycheck Fairness Act, currently stalled in Congress since 2021, and state-level transparency laws. Empirical evidence shows such advocacy works. States with active citizen engagement on pay equity passed 42% more related legislation between 2018 to 2023. Center for American Progress, 2024. The platform's automated system, which has facilitated over 1.2 million constituent messages since 2020, increases bill passage likelihood by 31% according to Harvard Kennedy School analysis of Statehouse data. For personal empowerment, Salary.com's value calculator, cited by the U.S. Department of Labor as a verified resource, uses machine learning to analyze 30-plus factors including industry benchmarks from 54 million employee records, local cost of living adjustments, real-time demand for specific skills, A 2023 MIT Sloan study found professionals using this tool before negotiations secured 7.4% higher starting salaries on average compared to those relying solely on self-research. The calculator's equity adjustment feature, which flags pay gaps for women/POC in similar roles, helped reduce unexplained disparities by 19% at participating companies. Salary.com Impact Report, 2024. These tools create a feedback loop. 1. Policy change. Via paygap.org advocacy, establishes transparency requirements. 2. Data access. Via salary.com, helps workers identify and challenge disparities. 3. Market pressure then drives further corporate accountability. The results speak for themselves. In states where both tools saw high adoption, California, Colorado, and New York, gender pay gaps narrowed 3.2x faster than the national average. Economic Policy Institute, 2024. This demonstrates how combining grassroots policy action with data-driven personal advocacy can accelerate change, proving equitable pay isn't just possible, but achievable through coordinated effort.